stillness for a lot of us feels like I'm not succeeding, I'm not progressing, things are not happening in my life. And according to where I should be, based on where my peers are at, based on where I thought I would be at, because we all had dreams, right, when we were younger. And when you get to the point where you must now stand still, you're like, my life is not okay. The question said it deep, Nyana. Where is this going?
Hello and welcome to Mindful Mondays with me, Shudu Padzo, Shudu. And for those who are joining us for the first time, Mindful Mondays is a journey about mental wellness enlightenment. And today, I am so honored, we are so honored to be joined by a formidable woman, a woman who has been in the industry for 25 years, creating impact with thoughtful conversations and leaving every space that she enters into a better place. And I know that's a very weird thing to say, but that's how she makes all of us feel. And to be sitting with her today is absolutely incredible. We are joined by Hulisani Ravele. Washu.
That was such a beautiful, thoughtful introduction. Thank you.
No, but it's really who you are, because I grew up watching you. You formed different ideas of what success looks like to all of us. And today I am so excited to be discussing how your idea of success has formed your perception of yourself and how you look at other people. But before we get into that, how are you in this moment?
I am at peace.
Ooh.
I am at peace with who I am, where I'm at,
Yeah.
where I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest definitions of success for me. And I never knew that I'd get to a point in my life that that is how I would define success, you know? So when you ask me how I am at peace with what is, what has been, and what will be. That's how I feel.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't expect that, but it's also really true, because how I've started defining success is along the same lines. But then I wonder what peace looks like to you. Because for us, peace looks different. For me, success is happiness. And I think I'm on a journey of trying to define what happiness looks like for me outside of the perception of other people. So how do you describe the peace that you have right now, that you found within yourself, that now determines the success that you feel like you have?
If I had to give it one word, I would say peace for me is acceptance. And it's the ability to understand that I don't know what tomorrow can hold, but I have faith in He who holds tomorrow, those who I walk with, who protect me, who guide me, and that is okay. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be joyful every single day, because I'm certainly not.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that everything is always going to work out, but I understand, Hore, there's a purpose in what is happening. I don't always instinctively understand that purpose and find it, so I can get upset about something. I can lose my marbles a bit, you know, and get to the point where I eventually then sit down and I'm able to say, okay, can you please help me understand what the purpose is in this mess? Because I don't like it. But I am intentional about seeking that knowledge. I'm intentional about growing myself. I'm intentional about understanding my space, my universe, and intentional about understanding other people as well. And so peace really is defined as acceptance for me. Whether it's good or bad, I can accept the situation for what it is and what it's meant to bring about in me, whether it's growth or madness or joy or just stillness, but accepting that I need to be that which I need to be in the moment that I need to be in it. And it's really, it's the concept of flow over fight.
Yeah.
You know how they often speak about a river pierces through a rock, not because it's more powerful. It's the consistency of the fact that it keeps flowing in that direction at the speed at which it does, and eventually the rock gives way. So I'm in a space of, I'm going to flow more than fight things, because when I fight, that's when things become a mess. And so peace is accepting that I'm going to go with the flow.
Going with the flow has never sounded so different. And you know, the concept of what you've just explained now in a very relatable human way is something that I've been reading about in books. So Stoicism, the ability to accept the things that we can't change. But the most interesting thing is we are never brought up to understand that it's okay to accept the things that we can't change. When you accept the things that you can't change, I feel like it reforms or reshapes what resilience even looks like in terms of like fighting or just flowing with what the river or what life wants us to be or where it wants us to go. But we are not brought up understanding Stoicism and understanding what flow really means in the grander scheme of life. I mean, most of us met you when you were 9 years old on your TV, and I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, I'd sit on my grandfather's floor, and we'd watch your TV all the time. And here is this, for me, this young Venda girl, so beautiful, so bubbly, understands her voice, but at the same time is like owning the stage in the way that she does. Knowing what you know now, tell us who Hulisani was, or Cici at the time. Was at 9 years old, and how she was, and what does she dream for herself, and in retrospect, does it fit who you are right now?
Cici, at the age of 9, was just a child on a papa. You know, when you have to translate it into English to say you were forward, it doesn't quite conceptualize
it doesn't.
what papa is. But I was that child. I was out and about. I was on the stages doing drama at school. I was playing sport. I was just, you know, that child that had an opinion and always voiced it.
Do you know what my grandfather would have called me? Nyamtang.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. And so growing up, my wishes and ambitions for myself were actually more in the corporate space because you know, I grew up with Womakadzi who were always traveling, and they always had their suitcases, and they were always on adventures around the world. And my Makadzi in particular would always bring me something back. And I had those dreams of, oh no, one day I'm going to sit in the corporate world, you know, be in boardrooms, travel the world, to the point where I'd even go on holiday to Venda with my own suitcase and those big toiletry bags. Like, you know, when you had a suitcase set, I was very particular about that because that's the life that I wanted to emulate. That's what success looked like for me at the time. And I had those ambitions of just wanting to do well in life. I was always an A student. I was an academic. I did pretty good at sport. I mean, I wasn't like great at swimming, but I was on the netball A team. So achievement was something that was very closely linked to who I was when I was younger. And growing up, that's what I wanted. I wanted to do well. I wanted to have a life that gave me options. I wanted to make money because money would open the way, you know, for me to be able to do many things. And stepping into television at such a young age, it had that innocence for me of, it was never about the fame. I had always conveyed as I was a child who na papa, and then I found myself on television, you know? And years later, the Hulisani that then grew up was someone and is someone who has now understood the purpose in her being a broadcaster. I understand the responsibility that I have as a broadcaster to convey conversations. I understand the gift that I have to be able to step into a room and hold a space and be a conduit of those conversations, and understanding that I have the ability to move someone forward in their life, in their thinking, in the way that they do things. And so that whole, I just landed on TV because I was a forward child, has intrinsically changed, but I needed to give myself the time to understand and do that. I wanted to be a CA growing up. Television was not the plan.
Oh, wow.
Entertainment and media was not the plan. And so when I went into varsity and studied a BCom in marketing, it was intentional so that it could open up the world for me, because I was like, everybody needs marketing. Whether you're a pharmaceutical company, a beverage company, a broadcasting, everybody needs marketing. And I found that that would closely link to perhaps the direction that I wanted to go in. So I think to answer you in a short way, Cici growing up was full of life. Hulisani grown up continues to be full of life, just with a deeper understanding and meaning and purpose to what she does.
I think it's the understanding, because you spoke about flowing. If you look at where your life started at 9 years old, so you find yourself on TV because Nachi Papa, right? But then look at how it's moved to where it is right now. You've understood how to hold space, how to hold a room, how to give people space and the ability to listen. You know how to hold conversations, still in the same mediums, just in a different way. You just have an understanding that what you understood as upapa, was actually your purpose.
Absolutely.
It was literally the will or the flow of how God, your ancestors, and all those who you were a culmination of prayers, a culmination of so many conversations, but now you get to convey them and shift how people think, but in a more intentional way because you understand your purpose.
That's it.
Because I think most of us find ourselves in spaces where I call myself an introvert. I think we're having a conversation earlier where I was like, you know what, I find myself in spaces where I'm the person who likes being in the back of the room. I don't really like speaking. But when I was 9, I had this weird prayer. I was like, God, use my voice to touch people's lives.
And then you won Miss South Africa.
And then I won Miss South Africa. But it was a crazy thing because Miss South Africa was an uncomfortable experience, but I knew that there was something that was drawing me to this thing in order to have conversations, meaningful conversations such as these. I think we both said we hardly do interviews or find ourselves sitting in these spaces. But the flow that you speak about is, if you look at all the different dots in your life, they were connecting in ways that you didn't understand. Now that you understand, you think that there's a difference between CC and Hulisani, but what people don't understand is that it's the same person.
And it always has
been. It always has been.
So I liken it to going through a spiritual awakening and having to go on a journey that it's always been in you. You've just been awakened to it at that point in your life. So you're absolutely correct in saying that we don't see the dots connecting when we are the line that's moving through the dots. But when you take a moment to step away and you look at the picture, you start understanding where the dots are going and exactly where they connect. Do you remember those things when we were younger where it was numbers and it was dots that you literally had to, when you just see the dots with the numbers, it looks like nothing. But as you connect the dot and you go through the line and you step back, it draws a picture. But you need to take that moment of stillness to be able to walk away, step back, look at it and see, where is this thing going? What is happening? Do I like it? Don't I like it? Should we continue? What do we need to change? Okay, I see where we're going with this, and I surrender to it. And that's where the flow comes.
It's interesting that you say that because stillness scares a lot of us.
Stillness scares a lot of us because it's unnatural. The world that we live in, the society that we live in, consistently bombards us with messages and ideas of go, 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 go. You got to be going. What's your next thing, Shudu? Oh, you want Miss South Africa. Okay, and now what are you doing now? What are you doing next? Where are you going? You know? And social media has exacerbated that. It's really just amplified this need to not always be on the go, but to also show that you're on the go and that you're moving. And so stillness for a lot of us feels like I'm not succeeding. I'm not progressing. Things are not happening in my life. And according to where I should be, based on where my peers are at, based on where I thought I would be at, because we all had dreams, right, when we were younger. And when you get to the point where you must now stand still, you're like, my life is not okay. And that's where things like anxiety, depression start to set in, because the comparison, which is truly the biggest thief of joy, sets in as well. And you're not measuring yourself only up against where you thought you would be, but where society thinks you should be. You're measuring yourself up against things that you thought would have come to pass by now, but they haven't.
Yeah.
And so stillness does feel like you're doing something wrong because the world has molded us into thinking that it's the wrong thing to do.
You know, it's interesting that you speak about like stillness and actually taking stock of what has happened, what has happened to you, what is happening to you, what is going to happen to you. So post Miss South Africa, I went to Miss World, and it was an interesting experience because I always pray a prayer that says, God, let your will be done.
Yeah.
The moment I can't say, God, let your will be done, I know I'm in the wrong space because I'm scared of what that will look like.
Yeah.
And I remember afterwards, I wasn't doing anything. I felt like I wasn't doing anything. And the interesting thing is I hadn't really had time my entire life to myself. I go to my therapist and I say, I'm not doing anything. What is wrong?
Yeah.
You know, like, and then she said to me, you're going to miss this time. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to miss this time? And then she's like, you're going to miss this time. Take time to hibernate and understand what has happened. And a lot of us don't like stillness because, like you're saying, we're going. And the comparison thing and having to show that you're on the go, having to show like, this is what I'm doing today. You find that the more you go, the more you get lost and lose the understanding of why you even started in the first place.
They say direction is better than speed. And stillness is where the direction is harnessed and formed. And that's where you need to be. That's why you need to stop, so that you can see if you're still where it is that you want to be and where it is that you want to go on your terms, not society's terms. And I can relate with what you're saying about straight after, Miss World, just sitting there and being like, what am I doing?
What will people think?
What will people think? What am I meant to be doing? And that scared a lot of people, and I could see it because it was what do you mean you're not going to do anything?
Yeah.
What are you going to do for a living? What are you going to do? And I'm just like, look, I've been called to stand still, and I'm going to be obedient to that call. And I know that in whatever way I will be provided for, because that is what my faith says, and that is what I stand on. Stillness to the point where, Shudu, I was not on social media, I think, for like 2 months. I did not spend Christmas with my family. I was alone in Joburg in my home. I had WhatsApp off on my phone. I spoke to no one. I did nothing. I did not leave my house. Maybe it was just go to the garage and back. And in that stillness, you are bombarded by those thoughts of, surely I should be further. Surely I should be doing something that my peers are also doing. There was a post that Lesego Tlabi had done when she moved to Paris. And she was talking about one of the biggest fears she had about leaving South Africa and moving to Paris. Lesego Tlabi is coconut cows as well, for those that don't know. She said her fear was she was getting to the point where everything was coming together and everything looked so good. Her opportunities were opening up, and here she was now leaving to go and start from scratch. And she said one of her biggest fears was, what would she come back as? And who would have filled her space and taken the opportunities that possibly could have been hers because she chose to go a different direction that meant standing still and doing something afresh. And I was like, I hear that. I had that fear of somebody else is going to get the radio show that I want.
Yeah.
Someone else is going to start doing the kind of TV show that I want. And I still had to stand in that stillness and in that pause because it was necessary in order to give me the fuel, and like your therapist said, in order to allow me to hibernate, because what is to come is going to need all of me and all that which has been refilled and refueled in me in the stillness.
You know, that hibernation is something that I wish I took, because now it's calling me to do it. It's the strangest thing where you just find yourself naturally hibernating and you don't understand why your body's slowing things down.
Yeah.
You're speaking about Lesego, and I remember that post, and I also remember the conversations I had with her and the fear that she managed to face, to basically go after something that she's always wanted and something that she knew that she had to do. And basically what happened with you, where you just stepped away from radio.
Yeah.
A lot of people would say that it's been like 27 years that she's been in the industry. What if it was that close to that, like, TV? You know, like, you feel like suddenly you feel like, what if, man? Like, I understand that I'm being called to do this and this, but what if it was that close? What if it was, like, what if my big break
Was there. The moment I chose to leave.
But the interesting thing is, what is your big break? There are things that we are meant to do, and there are things that we want to do for the sake of, like, finally I would have made it. But in whose eyes? Under whose criteria,
And the stillness helps you to define that.
And exactly, under whose criteria? I've always been, I read this book called Ego is the Enemy, and you realize that we're very hypocritical in how we think. We say one thing, but we actually don't mean it in that way. My whole life, I'm like, I'm humble, I'm this, I'm that, and I want to be a vessel to do good and serve the world and do all of these things. But then I found that when it meant slowing down to really allow myself to understand what it is that I'm supposed to do, that stillness made me so uncomfortable, because it's like there's also the survival mentality that comes in, where the other side could be thriving, but then because of how we have been conditioned to be perfect, to be on the go, because that's what defines success, the idea of success being something completely different to what people know us to be feels very uncomfortable.
The way I receive that for me is society is full of contradictions.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, there is the notion of if you really want something, you'll go for it. You won't back down, you'll go for it. And then on the other side, it's if it's meant for you, it won't pass you.
Yay.
If it's meant for you, let it go. If it comes back, it was meant to be yours. So on the one hand, you're telling me to go for something and don't give up until I get it. On the other hand, you're telling me, let it go. If it's truly meant for you, it will come back, right? Those are the two notions that you have to wrestle with. It is your spirit that then needs to make the decision and guides you to what is appropriate for the time. Because both notions are true. They're just not true for you at that time. And only you can decide what is right for you in that moment. But you can't be mad and say, society pulls me this way and pulls me that way. That's the whole construct. But it is your essence. It is your true north that is being tested here to say, you could turn right, you could turn left. You need to make a decision on which way you're going to turn, regardless of what somebody else has chosen. What do you choose for you? And then sit in that decision and sit in that choice.
And sitting in that stillness, you spoke about how you spent even Christmas alone, and sitting in that stillness, because there's the decision to be still. No one
Then
was
there's the doing it.
and exactly that. And then there's the doing it, where the stillness, I mean, just getting to the decision to be still is a back and forth. And you may think you're having a conversation with the world, but it's actually with yourself. You think the world is responding to you like, oh, this is a sign. I finally got that big thing. Now I have to do it. Now I have to keep going. But then there's the actual doing. And the discipline that it took for you to silence the world, essentially. Because at that time, a lot of us were like, eh?
Yep.
No, I actually, like, most of us don't read captions, but I read that caption.
You read my essay?
I read your essay and I was like, this is so interesting. And I remember reflecting on, like, wait, she's doing so well. Why? You know? And well by whose standards, one, but then you taking that time and was like, okay, I wonder what she's going to come back as.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the first post that she did was in that beautiful, like, yellow dress. So I have to ask, the discipline that it took during that time to be still, the other side where people may not understand what you come back as, and you having to be okay with it before you leave that space, and that, I don't want to call it solitude, but that hibernation. How do you deal with the before, during, which is the discipline? The before is like the full-on letting go, you know, like the what do they call it in English? The when you make a big decision and that thing. That thing. And then during is the resilience, but also the discipline to understand why you did it. Because sticking to your why is the most difficult thing, because the world will think
otherwise. And they'll question you.
They will question you to the point where you perhaps even question yourself.
Yes.
You know, because on paper, everything looks like we understand who you are. We know you better than you know yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And then there's the after, where you need to understand that things are not the same. I may not be the same. How do you tell me about please tell me about the different stages and how you managed to emerge from the stillness? Because I think it's a continuous journey. You just choose when to tap in and tap out.
The best way to describe it and to visualize it is it's like seasons.
Yeah.
From spring into summer, summer into autumn, autumn into winter. We're not evergreens. We're not meant to be continuously blooming. And just because you don't see my leaves, it doesn't mean my roots aren't doing something. It's just about the season of what is it time for. And so making the decision to go into the stillness, I accepted that it's winter time now. And what do we do in winter? We cozy up, you know, you're hibernating, you're within. And the discipline to do that is about committing to what I know is on the other side. I don't know what it is physically, tangibly, but I know it will be better than what I am now. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm committed to what it is going to be. And that's what I stood resolute in, that which I have been shown spiritually and feel in my spirit that it is time to take a break and time for you to stop now. I know that the reward on the other side, there's no way that I can be the same. And if I am committed to elevating, not only as a broadcaster, but as a human, I've got to make the sacrifice. And I am being told that the time is now. And that is what kept me committed to the journey. That is what kept me sure, even though everything around me said, doubt your decision, doubt what you did. Oh, look, that person's got a new show. Oh, look, this is what's happening. And one of the things that really helped me a lot was also stepping away from social media, because then I didn't have those voices. And people don't realize that even though it's just a picture, when they say pictures with 1,000 words, when I'm seeing Shudu traveling and going where and doing whatnot, that picture is saying to me, and there you are sitting at your house.
In a gown.
In a gown, with your hair imadlagadlaga, doing nothing. That is what that image is saying to me. And the discipline to step away from all of that was in commitment to the woman that I know I want to be in my next. It was in commitment to the dream I want to build within broadcasting for myself. And so you stick to the journey because of what you know the promise is on the other side. And there's a book that I'd love to quote that it's an inspirational one, and I'm sure many people will recognize it when I speak about it. But there's a particular passage that talks about, behold, I am doing a new thing, which means that if a new thing is being done,
I love that book.
Love that book, right?
That book.
If a new thing is being done, that means you must comprehend that there was an old. But the new thing can't happen if the old thing doesn't die.
But then for it to die, you need to go back and quote that book that says the plans I have for you are to prosper you. And
being sure of that.
Yes.
That is what helps you stay disciplined. That is what helps you stay committed. What are you sure about? That no matter what Shudu is doing in her life, no matter where Hulisani is at in her career, you are sure that you know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I will not be shaken. I will not be moved, because I know that I'm doing the right thing for me, to me. It might not look right to you. It will be very confusing to many. But I know where I'm being guided to be and what I'm being guided to do. And I'm committed to that. What everybody else says, that's your opinion. It's not a fact.
Where's your mental health when you're in that stillness?
In therapy.
Because I'm listening, and you're there with the posture and you're giving it. It sounds great, and you are like 27 years sitting here.
Listen.
But where's your mental health? Because I'm like, I hear, like, my mom, the logical side of me is like, I hear you.
I hear you.
I hear the book. I hear all of it.
Practicality?
What is the practicality of what you're actually saying to me now? Because you are basically, they're saying letting go of the things of the world.
Yes.
And the things of the world, like you said, you had to know that you're going to be provided for. You had to know that your other side is going to be a better side, I guess. But it's where's your mental health? Because you're going to find people listening to this saying, I hear her, but like
how?
Like how? Like we spoke about how you were in this moment, but how were you in that moment on Christmas at home by yourself? Because there's a fine line between solitude, loneliness, and stillness. So thin that you could tap into either side, where it's like, I can imagine myself crying, saying, I get it, but this is hard.
No, and that's where I was. My mental health during that period was where it needed to be, and giving myself the grace of feeling what I needed to feel. So there were days when I was, oh, Zen, this is so beautiful. I love the space that I'm in. I love my slow life and everything that I'm doing. And then there were days when I was in tears and I was on the floor. And I was begging and pleading, saying, but this is hard. I don't like this. It was receiving a picture in the family group and you're smiling with everyone and you're video calling, Merry Christmas, whatnot. And the moment you put the phone down, you are broken. And so my mental health was allowing myself to feel that which I needed to feel at the time that I needed to feel it. And what we're not taught is something that you're talking about earlier of Stoicism and understanding that I'm good, I'm okay, I'll get through this. But no, at that point, my mental health was really, the focus was name what you're feeling and feel what you're feeling. It was accepting that I was also grieving the loss of my career because stopping something that you've done for so long and being like, okay, I need to stand still because that's what I need to do, I must also grieve the opportunities that are potentially lost.
And the mind has a way of making you feel like there were 10,000 opportunities.
Exactly. And especially because you see, again, other people getting them. And that's why I needed to get off social media, so that it was literally just my voice that I could hear. I needed to get off WhatsApp so that there was no message of, hey, just checking in, how you doing? There was no seeing a status of somebody saying, engaged, living my best. I saw nothing, I heard nothing. I didn't watch TV. I didn't know what was happening on the news. It was true solitude of sit with yourself, sit with your thoughts. Even the ones that you don't like, even the ones that are not pretty, go and face yourself. But so many of us are so scared of doing that because we're not taught how to do it. And so the onus is on you to do it. You can't go around saying, hey, you know the way we grew up, you know that you don't know it. So go and equip yourself with the knowledge to do so. You go to school because you don't know how to operate a camera. But you take it upon yourself to say, but I want to know how to do it. And what do? You apply, you either watch YouTube videos, you learn the skill. So why do you not apply the same kind of thinking to your mental health to say, I don't know how to deal with feelings. I grew up in a home where we don't talk about feelings. I grew up in a society where as a black person, if things are going wrong with your mind, you're sick. Something is wrong with you. And then you go and you equip yourself with the tools and the lessons to be able to process those feelings. And that's why I've always been an advocate of therapy. I love sitting in that chair and just being able to have somebody else who's a stranger, who doesn't judge you. I can't say doesn't know you from a bar of soap, because in my situation, you kind of know me from half a bar of soap. But the essence of it is, it's somebody that holds up a mirror and says, Shudu, this is who you are right now. This is what you're facing. How do you feel about it?
You know,
how are you processing it? What do you think you want to do about it? They don't tell you what to do. They're just helping you hold a conversation with yourself and prodding and leading with the right questions, so that even when I'm not sitting in that chair and I'm sitting in my house and I'm alone on Christmas Day, I am able to process the feelings because I have the toolkit. But I had to put my hand up and say, I don't know emotional wellness. Let me go and learn. Let me go and sit in the therapist chair and understand what healing myself looks like. Now I know how to pick up things. Now I know when I'm doing this, why I'm doing it. Now I can actually address it instead of, let's suppress it. Let's be strong. Let's be mbogotos. Sorry. Miss me.
You actually do something where you put up your hand right now. We are taught, even in schools, that there are such things as stupid questions. So we have a society that basically wants us to suppress our feelings, because we live in a world of comfortability, where a lot of people don't know that they're not comfortable with themselves until that mirror is in front. And the beautiful thing about therapy, the first time I went to therapy, let's say it's an hour, I spoke for 50 minutes. That 10 minutes was her asking questions. But you get to realize how when the mirror is there, we all just want a space where we can speak to ourselves, essentially, because therapists they won't tell you how to feel. They won't tell you what to do. For the most part, therapy has now become conversations where I know what I should have done. I'm self-aware to the point where if I make a mistake, I was aware when I did it.
Yes.
There's no excuse.
You made an informed decision.
You made an informed decision. But the interesting thing about that is also being comfortable with your feelings in the context of what seems to be right in the grander picture. I'm saying it in the sense of you had to trust something greater than yourself.
Of course.
So when you feel those feelings, this is hard, crying your eyes out, understanding the purpose, understanding the why, how do you then not feel guilty for it? Because I don't think, for the most part, we think that the guilt can only exist with other people. But the guilt that exists with self, where yes, you're losing those opportunities, yes, there's something greater coming, but you're crying in a home and you're still fine, you're provided for. How do you get over that? I don't want to, it's almost like an imposter syndrome of sorts, where the hard also comes from the crying. Maybe I'm speaking for self here.
There's a post that I think you posted, if I'm not mistaken. And it was around 2 things are allowed to be true at the same time. I can be living in a beautiful house and still be in pain. I can be succeeding in my career
And still
be in pain and be in great anxiety and fear. I can be traveling the world and living my best life and still have negative feelings about something else.
I remember
It was
that.
you, ne?
It was me.
It was your post.
You actually quoted me on Bumi's podcast.
Wisdom and Wellness podcast.
It doesn't matter, like, mental health doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter how successful you are. Because before even getting into therapy, that was the thing that held me back. Because niva hamasiya. I didn't have the same opportunities that my cousins did.
So you should be grateful.
So you should be grateful.
What are you crying about?
And it's almost like what I've learned to call toxic positivity or toxic gratitude, where I would cry my eyes out in the car, but then I felt like I couldn't cry in front of anyone else because
you have all these opportunities.
I've got all
what
these
are you crying
opportunities.
about?
But you know, the interesting thing is, I think we were speaking about it earlier with Pumla as well. It's how for the past 2 years I've been grieving, heavily so, and understanding that there's a greater blessing. But then when things get hard, I'm like, because of my grandfather, I'm like, Gugu, I know you told me that I should keep going, but wow, this is not easy. So it's...
Duality is okay, Shudu.
Duality.
And that's what I think all of us need to understand. It's almost like the yin and yang sign. And how on the one side it's white and it's got the black dot. On the other side it's black and it's got the white dot. And there's a understanding and a interpretation that says on the white side with the black dot, it is showing us that in goodness there can also be bad.
Yeah.
And on the other side, on the black side, it's they can be bad, but they can also be good within the darkness and within the bad. And that is life. It's not
like
one thing.
Push and pull.
It's not, we focus so much on singularity and making things very finite. It's a yes or no. It's black or white. And do you see how that's very society, capitalism, work speak? That it's either this or that.
And can't be both.
Whereas for me, I understand the duality of life. I found peace in it, and that guides me. I've found how I understand it to say, there can be bad in the good. I can be a person that is making a lot of money, and I'm allowed to feel that the pressure of having to provide for others is a lot.
Yeah.
And having to be the answer for others is a lot. Then it is upon me to do the work of how am I going to live in this reality of what my duality presents.
Understanding your triggers.
And what does that look like? It's doing the work. So I remember sitting with my personal coach once, and it was actually during COVID. And we were having this video call, and one of the exercises he made me do was, are you helping people or are you rescuing people?
Cool.
And I was like, but what's the difference? You know? Come on. And if I don't do it, who will? And he said to me, let's go back to a young you. What did success look like, and what did getting attention for you look like? He did an exercise where he said, which parent did you crave attention the most from? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoo, the question said it deep, nyana. Where is this going, right? But in doing all that work, he gave me an understanding and an appreciation of I'm wired the way that I'm wired because of the inputs of my upbringing. And the more I can understand what has made me the person that I am, the more I am able to navigate. And I'm very intentional about using the word navigate and not deal with. Because dealing with something makes it seem like it's such a negative thing, like just deal with it. Just get it over and done with. But navigating means there's direction. I must turn left, I must turn right, I must go, I must stop, look where I'm going. So the way I navigate life now and navigate myself is a lot more aware, because I had to go and do the ugly work, like which parent did I crave attention from the most? And knowing that parent, it was then a question of what did you have to do for them to praise you? I had to always be doing well in my academics. Okay, now you understand that you're a people pleaser and a performer, because that is where the parent that you crave attention from the most would give you the attention. When you were doing well, when you were succeeding. So when you are not succeeding, you feel like you're not loved and you're not receiving that which you think you're owed. And then when it circles back to are you rescuing or are you helping people, you do that because it is also satisfying something in you of the times when there was no one to help you as a child. When you were crying out for help, but it's because we don't marry the two. We don't see that the reason you are the way that you are now is because of past experiences. And so many of us are afraid to go to those past experiences because, one, it means facing some really ugly and dark truths about yourself, about your parents, about your circle, and admitting that this was actually wrong. This has molded me to be this kind of person. And it's understandable why you're scared to do that work, because it's messy, it's ugly, and there are realities and truths that you will have to admit verbally, and then there are actions that you'll have to take afterwards. Who wants to do that, Shudu? That's like saying, take the N1, it's a straight road, it's beautiful, or take the R101. There's some potholes along the way, there's no lights.
It's not a great road.
It's not a great road, but you'll get to the same destination. Take the R01.
You know,
R101. That's the road that you need to take. That's the work that you need to do. Because then when you're on the N1, you can cruise so much better. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but you can understand that you're changing a lane. Why? You are hitting traffic because, and you can be okay with sitting in the traffic. Now you're not, hey, what are we doing? So it's a long-winded way of me saying the work is ugly, the work is hard, but it is so rewarding because then you're able to sit and walk in your truth. That regardless of what anybody says, throws your way, you know that you know that you know.
Have you read the book, What Happened to You?
Oprah's book? No, not yet. It's sitting there in my little dock of library.
No, suggestion, listen to it because it's a conversation between Dr. Perry and Oprah Winfrey. But it essentially says what you've just said.
Yeah.
For the longest time in my life, my question was, like you're saying, there's what people see and then there's what happens within.
Yeah.
What people were seeing was this overachieving child who didn't get anything wrong. Nyamtangi, literally, But what was happening within is, what is wrong with me? You know, you're doing everything right in terms of like showing up for people, you know, being the person, like the whole serving the world and community. It's essentially that. Those questions are incredible because they're deep enough for you to go back to the 6-year-old child who was waiting for that parent, you know. And it was beautiful for me to have that conversation with myself upon listening to the book, because I shifted what is wrong with me, which had been a constant for 24 years of my life, to what happened to me.
Yeah, and understanding it.
And when I started having conversations about what happened to me, it was a beautiful thing because I realized that how I've made decisions up until this point, going back to the start, was informed by, for me it was Abby, for you it was Cece, was informed by what happened to me that led to that child doing things in a specific way, that led to me even being scared of the stillness that we've been speaking about right now, because I'm at a point where I need to redefine what success looks like for me, and just for me at this point, because my life has been, you know, like the overachiever, the rescuing, the helping. But through this conversation, you get to realize that stillness may be scary, but it is necessary because it helps us basically draw that picture and connect the dots to where we need to be as individuals, and how even what we see societally and structurally, it informs a lot about ourselves in a way that fits the status quo and keeps the world going. But at some point we need to stop and take stock and move out of that well-oiled machine, you know, that thing that we used to see of the rat running,
the rat race,
literally that. Because if we don't, we'll find ourselves going and forgetting why we even started in the first place. Exhausted, but forgetting why we even exhausted in the first place. At what point do we reflect and sit back and say, okay, cool, the flow of how this is going requires me to go faster or slower.
Yeah.
But at some point, I feel like a lot of us are on autopilot.
And understandably so, Shudu. You know, if you look at the reality of where life is at, people are parents, you are a colleague, you are someone's daughter, there's family, there's friends, there's work, there's my child. There's so much that you have to balance that being on autopilot it's a logical solution.
Yeah.
Because if I have to stop the plane to now realize what's happening at the engine, what's happening with the windows, what's happening with the air pressure, the plane is going to fall out of the sky.
You were speaking about, for most of us, we fulfill so many roles in our lives, you know, daughter, sister, aunt, all of these things. And when you are the one that, you know, in most Black families, which is something that we need to break, there's always the few that succeeded that have to carry the weight of lifting up the next generation in order to break generational curses.
Yeah.
It's very heavy, because even when you feel like I'm tired,
You can't stand still.
You can't stand still, which is why, like you said, like the autopilot keeps going and the go keeps going, because taking stock of our lives sometimes is very difficult, because that's when this feels a little bit unfair.
And not only that, you also just see how messy it is.
How messy it is.
It's like driving past an accident. And you know how how the reason there's traffic when there's an accident is not because of the actual accident,
No, it's
but
'cause
everybody's
everyone's
slowing down and looking.
Yeah.
So when you're on autopilot, you kind of like doing that. You're just slowing down and just driving past, but you're
never
not
stop.
realizing that you're actually in the accident.
Yeah.
It's a mess. You need to stop and see, where am I bleeding?
Yeah.
Where does it hurt? Do I need to go to the hospital? And the reality is a lot of us don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
Because standing still is really not an option. Quitting my job is not an option. So I understand the privilege that I also have to have been in a position where I was able to stop my work and walk away and not work for a while, have the sustenance, but then also call my bank and say, hi guys, actually, I don't have any more money. Can I please borrow some of your money so that I can keep the stillness going, because I need it. And then I'll figure out what I need to fix thereafter. I understand the privilege of being able to do that. And my guidance, I suppose, is find a way in which you can pause, even if it's momentarily. I'm not saying take a sabbatical, but if you don't take the moment to realize what's happening in your life, what's wrong, no matter how messy it may be, if you don't know what you're dealing with, you don't know what you need to be healing.
And you don't know how to move forward.
And you
because
don't.
It's almost like your windscreen is like so filthy and you can't see anything. And
But you're still driving.
You're still driving and you're expecting not to crash. And also changing the conversations we have with ourselves, where those stillness conversations come in, and the sabbaticals, because my business partners and I were in a group, and we all made a joke about how we're scheduling our breakdowns.
Yes.
And I was like, wait, this is actually not normal. We understand that we are running on empty. We understand that there's something that is not right. So the self-awareness, so the you know, the education and the emotional awareness and understanding. A lot of us have it, but we still use it in a very toxic way to say that, okay, cool, I've acknowledged it, which means it can't grow past the point where it is now. And we were like, no, we're going to schedule our breakdowns for December. But the thing about it is there's always something that's going to come up. December came, and something else came up that made me delay the stillness that I needed to face myself. And I remember someone dropped me who was an integral part to this machine moving. And you know what happened to that plane? It started glitching.
Yeah.
It wasn't even turbulence. It literally went, but the crazy
Fell out the sky.
Fell out the sky. But imagine trying to fix a plane.
Yeah.
How do you even fix a plane? This is December. And the thing about trying to fix it is that you kept it going and going and going. You knew that you needed to stop and refuel, but you didn't stop. The work that needs to be done when you don't actually take the stillness or the sabbatical, the time that you need, is much more than the work that you would still need to do if it actually just crashed.
The cost.
The cost, that's the word.
We don't, there's a quote that I love that says, it's the best accounting or something like that. It's like, the best accounting you can learn is the cost of a future decision.
Yeah.
Or the cost of, like the future cost of a decision. The best math you can learn. That's exactly how it goes. It goes, the best math you can learn is to calculate the future cost of your current decision. So you not taking time to fix the oil now, which means maybe a 2-day downtime to change the oil, could lead to a bigger cost of the plane breaking down completely. How long is it going to take to fix that?
how much is it going to cost?
How much is it going to cost? And not only in monetary terms, but how much is it going to cost for your soul? How much is it going to cost for your mind? It's how people talk about it's important for you to check in on your health and to make sure that you're okay before your health forces you to not be okay. You lying in a hospital bed versus you having gone for the checkup, the costs are different.
Yeah.
And not only monetarily wise, because you could have gone and checked in, right? It's just some tests. You check in with your therapist, check in with your GP. How are we doing? Do we need to fix anything, alter anything? But you put it off because you're like, no, I need to keep going. I need to keep going. Now the cost of you lying in a hospital bed, money-wise, time-wise, for your spirit-wise, was it not wiser to just take the 2-day break as opposed to the 2-week breakdown that you then forced yourself to get into because you didn't pay attention to this thing that said, hi, I'm not okay, actually. And you just kind of look at me now. It's like a child. First asking, then throwing a tantrum. What did you think was going to happen?
It could have been addressed earlier. And the thing about the recovery of, you know, the whole hospital analogy is interesting because the recovery, people think it's the physical when the tests now say, oh, it's fine now.
She can go home.
She can go home. They think that's the recovery. But the psychological recovery is something else because it actually goes into the inner child where you are now reflecting on your life and your spirit and your mind because you're forced to go there to ask why you even got to that place.
You're forced to stand still because you didn't take the direction to be told to stand still.
It's literally, it's the most interesting thing because that stillness was forced on you in a way where it doesn't really do what it needed to do the first time had you taken it. And, you know, you spoke about being in a privileged position to actually take the time. But, you know, the world doesn't stop.
It won't.
It doesn't stop. And the thing about it is, I was talking to a friend of mine. There's a successful businessman that died in a plane crash, and we were reflecting afterwards. He was replaced in 24 hours with an acting CEO.
And you always will be.
And that was the scariest thing for me, where I had to look at my life differently. Where we go. You want to serve the community, you want to serve the world. You know, you're going, and it looks great. But there's a moment where it could have been you, can be anyone else. And if you don't take the time for yourself, the world moves on with or without you.
And it has to, though, Shudupadzo. For us, we get mad that the world that the world moves on, but it must. You think the organization, you think me leaving 947 means 947 is going to not have a show on weekend breakfast?
So even move to a new building.
Hello, at least I enjoyed the new building, please. But it's not going to stop. There are still listeners who want their weekend to be fulfilled with a show that wakes them up in the morning and, you know, is their companion to start their weekend.
It's a tradition for them that carries on with or without
With or without. Yes, the tradition might feel different, sound different, but they will accustom themselves to the change and they will grow with it. And it will be what it is in this new form. But the point is, the show will go on. And that is in any walk of life. Even, God forbid, Shudupadzo, something had to happen to you. Your family will have to go on.
With or without
because that is what life requires of us. That is what the physical journey of being in this realm requires of us. Will there be pain? Of course. Will there be moments where you don't know if I'm coming, going, left, right? Yes. All those things will change because you being removed has intrinsically changed the environment and the journey. But will it keep moving forward?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's such a, what's the word, harrowing reality where you're like, oh, like this, like literally I just read about this yesterday and then the next day it's business as usual. And rightfully so. There's like 2,000 employees, 3,000 employees. Who are we to think that our presence matters so much that 2,000 people have to suffer because of one action? And maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's the ego in us.
It is ego. It's not maybe.
It's the ego in us.
You overemphasize your importance.
Unfortunately so.
You think that because you're not here, things won't happen. But if you get to the point where you accept that I am an important part of this, but I also understand that my stepping away might mean something changes and something has to be different, but that's okay. That's okay. You don't step away because you're like, if I step away, things are going to fall apart. Then you haven't built something that is solid enough that in your absence, it cannot continue.
Nelson Mandela was actually speaking about when he was building the children's hospital and the foundation, he wanted something that will live on beyond his physical being.
Yeah.
How the visions and the people that have put in work into it, it can survive with or without him. And it was beautiful being in that space because you understand the importance of strong foundations, not only professionally, but spiritually, psychologically, because that's how we then get to a place of understanding that things will not just survive, but they will thrive.
And they have to.
They have to.
They have to. That is the natural progression of things. It doesn't mean we won't forget the importance of him or you or me. But something new will grow in its place. I remember something, I think it was something that Bishop Musosono once said in a sermon, and he said, the world does not allow for a vacuum. Where something has been removed, something else will take its place. It is the natural order of things. Whether it will be a good thing, a bad thing, the point is there will not be a vacuum. Something will fill that space. You got to be okay with accepting that people will go on without you.
Stoicism.
In your work, in your family, in your friendship. Things will change, but we must allow them to change. Otherwise, we end up holding on to things that are long dead. All because of how long we've been here for, how long it has served us, how good it has been, but it's not good now. And I'm not saying give up on things and not, the double entendre of life and the contradiction of, hold on, if it's meant for you, it will come back, let go, it's too toxic. Your spirit needs to get you to a place where it can guide you to be like, our journey together is done. I honor that which we had together. I am grateful for that which we have added into each other's lives, but it's done now. And that goes for work, friendship, even family. Accept who people are and then place them where they need to be.
Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. And we spend time trying to not believe and recognize what is in front of us.
And that's okay because it's human nature, Shudu. I must give you another chance.
Yeah.
And maybe I must give you 3, 4, 5 chances because you were going through a bad time, because you were doing this. It is natural. I think what's important for us to get across in this conversation is that it's not wrong for you to give someone many chances.
And it's not wrong to give yourself many chances.
It's not.
It's not wrong to have multiple conversations with yourself until you get to a point where you are with yourself and taking time to understand where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going.
Absolutely.
It's okay to give yourself grace. That's what we call it. And going back to what Bishop Musosono said, I love him. That vacuum and the natural way of life is the natural flow of life that you spoke about initially in this conversation, where we need to flow with life, but understand the way the flow is going.
And understand that forever is a social construct.
Yeah.
It is not the way of nature. Nothing lives forever. It can die and come back in a different form, but nothing lives forever. Even a tree that stands tall, its leaves fade away at some point and something new comes. So why would you think that it has to be different for you? Why would you think that, yes, forever is nice, it's beautiful, but not all things are going to last forever. Not all marriages are going to last forever. Not all friendships are going to be forever. Some will, yes, but understand that if an ending has come in your life, it's not ideal. But if you don't face that it is the end and allow yourself to step into it and come with the tools that need to deal with endings, like grieving someone that's still alive, you're going to get hurt. And life is going to get very messy for you because you're holding on to dead things, which are going to bring you what? Illness. Think about if you're in a room of mold, because I get a mold will also come alive where things have died. What do you think is going to happen in your own life? Because you're holding on to the job that no longer fulfills you. It brings you money, but it doesn't make you happy. But scaling down and selling that fancy car and moving into a smaller house is going to have you perceived some type of way in your community. And your community is your work, your family, community at large.
It's not rare.
If you are not going to, like I said, do the work that is very messy and very ugly, you will always march to the beat of society's drum. And that tune is not for you.
Knowing what you know now, if you had an affirmation for all the parts of you that have died, that have awakened, that are coming, what would you say? Like, and I want you to start, my name is Hulisani Ravele and I am. What would that affirmation look like?
Sure. I'm applying myself.
No, please do. Please do.
I think the affirmation would be, I am Hulisani Ravele and I am water.
Water.
I will flow. I can change forms. I can bring life. I can bring energy. I can bring goodness. I can get sick. I can bring disease. But through it all, I will allow myself to be the form which I need to be at the time at which I need to be. I am water. I can take on different forms. I can fall from the sky. I can fall over a cliff. I can stream by gently and quietly. I can be within as I am without. But I'm here. I exist. I matter. And I will learn to flow. Yeah, I think it would sound something like that.
And you know, you being water is so fitting. I say this because you've nurtured so many people. I mean, from 9 years old, and I am pretty sure even before that with family and friends and the people around you, but you've nurtured so many people through conversation. I sat down here not really knowing what to expect, because you never know what to expect with you, actually. You actually just have to flow with where the conversation is going, but not just conversation, where the tide is taking us in terms of where we need to be and where we are being guided to go.
Yes.
So it's interesting how when you said you're applying yourself in your water, it's such a fitting thing, because not only have you watered me through this conversation before this, even before I became, Shudu, that like you have a way of watering the spaces that you go into through your voice, through your presence. And that's how water works. It doesn't necessarily have to go to a specific person. No, it just is there.
Yeah.
And it gives life to where life is needed.
Oh.
And that is water. So in my mind, I'm like, she said she just applied herself now. But no, it is the stillness and self-awareness that you inherently have.
Thank you.
Because, like there's some people who would think, I bring it up a lot, but they would think sitting on my grandfather's floor, watching your TV is just a kid's show. But then to even sit at this moment and having listened and being in your presence, which is such an honor, to be honest, you don't have to do much for you to water the environment in which you're in. And for me, that is so important, because I walked in and you have a great presence about you. And I woke up this morning, I'm like, what am I going to say? She's like, 27 years. What am I going to say to this person? But I think for the most part, I wanted to sit down with you, to have this conversation with you, to give you your flowers. But as you naturally do, you have watered me. You've watered so many people that will be listening to this conversation. And I'm just really thankful for you. And I mean this as Waashu. I mean this as the person you have been to so many people who will never really have the conversation to sit, the time or the space to sit down with you in the way that I am. And yeah, I just hope that you know how loved and appreciated you are, and how I'm so thankful in my transitionary phase that I got to sit down with you in this moment as you are still in yours and will continue to be as water will continue to flow. It always transitions into different shapes and forms. And thank you. Ndoribuwa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I receive all that you have said with great joy and affirmation of the journey I've walked, am walking, and will continue to walk. So.
And we'll be watching. You spoke about the great plans for broadcasting in your next phase. I didn't want to ask, to be honest, because I think it needs to be such a beautiful unfolding of it.
Absolutely.
And there's certain things that are sacred. People think they have it figured out. I wanted to, obviously that natural needs, okay, what
are you doing next?
What are you doing next? But I think there's a beauty in us just watching. We've watched you for 27 years. I think we can watch you for 27 more and listen for 27 more. So
thank you for honoring the sacredness of that. I'm very grateful. And it will be what it will be.
Exactly. Without any expectations, but just allowing it to unfold in the most beautiful way.
Thank you for being the blessing that you are. By telling your story and being the conduit for others to be able to tell theirs.
God willing. Thank you so much for joining us today. When I started this conversation, I didn't expect it to flow in the way that it did. But there's something so beautiful about creating a safe space and just allowing yourself to flow in that safeness. We don't have a lot of that, and I hope Mindful Mondays can actually be that, not just for me as it has been and as it continues to be, but for everyone who's going to be watching. The reason it is the way that it is right now is because I wanted it to be as accessible as possible. So you could see and feel us, hopefully. The reason for the plants is because it's life, and feel us and feel me and feel these conversations where you can come in and say, listen, I understand where she's coming from, because I understood where she's coming from, because stillness scares me. And I know it scares a lot of you. And it's so important for us to define success for ourselves in the way that it needs to be. The ego has a way of making us feel like our success and our journeys need to be on display and people have to validate. I think that's the word, validation. We need validation in our success and who we're supposed to be. But through this journey, I hope that there's an understanding of the validation that you need as actually within, whoever you believe in, whatever you believe in. The higher power lives within us, exists within us, works within us. So the validation cannot come externally, because that's not how you build, that's not how you grow. But also understanding that it comes with its own challenges, and that's okay. So from me, Hulisani, and the Mindful Mondays team, we just want to say thank you for flowing with us.